Hey, everybody, and welcome to another Atta Football virtual event. Excited to bring this to you, subscribers of Atta Football. I'm your host, Jeff Kassouf. You might know me from The Scoop if you're following along on this platform. And that video, we bring you highlights every week of some of the top leagues in women's soccer in Europe. And this event, though, we are focused on a very American thing, the college draft, the National Women's Soccer League college draft. It is a double draft week for the NWSL. We've got an expansion draft on Thursday, which is a whole nother beast. But we're going to focus on the college draft, which is Saturday. And that is the annual event. First time we're having it in December. And to get us prepared for that, who better than the top pick in the previous draft, which happened this past January. I'm joined today on this event by Emily Fox. Excited to have her along. Number one pick for Racing Louisville in the 2021 NWSL draft. And you've probably seen her, especially recently, on the U.S. women's national team. Emily, thanks for joining us here on this Atta Football virtual event.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, excited to have you. An exciting time for a lot of players, as you just experienced this past year or so coming into the pro game. And I guess we'll lay out a little bit of what this draft is for folks who maybe are unfamiliar, and you can give a little bit of a player view of that. So the college draft, if you're watching along and you're wondering what the heck is this, it is the entry point for college players into the NWSL, which is the top flight in the US and one of the top leagues in the world. And they are drafted by teams in so many words. The teams, they're laid out in an order by typically reverse chronological order of where they finished in the league and in the previous season. And that's a way to create some parity. That's the goal of it anyway. But as the NWSL goes and the chaos within it, there are always a lot of trades. So if you're looking at the draft order today or in the coming days, it's not exactly in reverse chronological order, but it also includes a couple of expansion teams. So if you want to keep up to date to that, NWSLsoccer.com, they'll have the updated draft list. And I'm sure come draft day on Saturday, it will change. But in so many words, top college players go into a pool for drafting. These teams select them based on their order. And of course, the number one pick from 2021 was Emily Fox, Racing Louisville FC, which was an expansion team in this past season. So Emily, that draft, I've been to a lot of them at the conventions, and they're quite an event actually in person, which maybe you got to see some friends do. A little bit different for you with the pandemic. It was virtual. What was that experience like as a whole of the entering the draft, waiting to see where you were going to be picked and waiting on that, and also having to do that remotely? I assume you were, you were at US camp, weren't you, at the time?
Yeah. No, it was great. I mean, I feel like there's a lot of emotions with it. You're excited, you're nervous, you're anticipating like what's going to happen, but at the same time, you can't really control it. And it was different than most drafts because of COVID, and I was at camp. So I think for me, the coolest part with being at camp is the team helped make it special for me. And they had all the girls that were previous first draft picks. They came in with me to like the virtual like sitting room. We all had masks on and we were all like 2 feet apart. So it was a little, I felt a little like awkward and uncomfortable, but it was really cool like having them around me. And then when I did get picked first, like I just felt like everyone was so genuine and really happy for me, and I really appreciated that, and I really appreciated their support. So even though it wasn't at the convention center, I feel like the girls made it really special for me, and I really appreciated that. Yeah.
What do you think of the system? I mean, you know it quite well. You mentioned some of the other top picks. I think I can remember at least a couple of other top picks in previous years that were also in U.S. camp at the time of the draft. You know that you're going into it and you don't necessarily have exact control of where you are going. You're not choosing where you want to go per se. You're at the mercy of a team picking you. If you went abroad per se, you would be able to maybe choose that team. So what was that process like? Did you think about the other options at all? How did you kind of deal with okay, maybe I'm not exactly picking, but I have an idea of where I might go?
Yeah, I mean, it is nerve-wracking. To me, I felt like it was, for the most part, like, out of my control, just because, like you're saying, with the NWSL, there is a lot of things that happen with trades in the draft that happened last second. I know leading up to the draft, like, I didn't really know where I was going up until the last couple minutes, so that was pretty wild. But like you're saying, compared to going overseas where you do have a choice, I think for me, I wanted to stay in the NWSL because I found and thought that would be the most competitive league. And I also wanted to stay US based. Having been in it, I can say that every game is extremely competitive. And I feel like I definitely grew so much as a player and a person. It is great though this year that the draft is in December, because I feel like it does give the college players time to be like, okay, like, I'm moving here, like, kind of create a plan, as opposed to January, where I feel like it is like a very short turnaround. So I hope they stick to having it in December, because I feel like that helps the players a lot.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you mentioned, I mean, you played at University of North Carolina. Racing Louisville drafts you, so you're changing markets. I think a really cool thing that we got to see, we see it a little bit at the in-person drafts too, but with the virtual draft, a lot of players kind of had their people with them, their family, some
Yeah.
of their friends.
I really enjoyed seeing all the families and all the teammates over the video calls when people got picked for the draft, and seeing their reactions. Like, I feel like even though it might have not been, the best that it wasn't at in person, I actually think it was great, like you're saying, that people were able to have their families with them. Because, like you're saying, normally that wouldn't happen, like having as many, people, your supporters, be able to come with you in person. So for me, like, I really enjoyed, like, seeing, people's reactions and their families' reactions to girls when they got picked.
We hear a lot about the adjustment to the pro game, and it's really tough for a lot of rookies to come in and make an immediate impact. I think yourself, among a few others this year, were able to do so. But what was that like? Is it drastically different? You show up day one of preseason, and you're like, "Hey, this is a whole new ball game. This is a different level," or did you feel like maybe it was a smoother adjustment for you?
I felt like I had a great team and a great environment in there, like you're saying, because of how competitive it was. So in terms of the competitiveness and, being ready to, like, earn your spot and, like, earn your position, like, I felt prepared in that sense. I feel like one thing that is so different compared to college is the level of each game. I feel like at UNC, we had, the FSU game, the Duke game, the Virginia game, and a couple other games that were good. But then when you move into the NWSL, I feel like every game is like, I don't know which team's going to win. It's always a battle. So I feel like that was, like, one of the biggest differences coming from college to pro, is how hard each game was and how hard you had to work to get a win from each game.
There's a lot coming up. Is there anything that you look at sort of specifically that is top of mind for you personally, or even on a team front? What kind of goals have you sort of set for yourself in this sort of immediate future?
Yeah, it's another question. I mean, I feel like for me, I want to do my best to make sure I can, if I do get invited to camp, that I perform well in camp. So, and just also controlling what I can control. In terms of Louisville, since we have a new coach, I feel like I definitely need to prove myself and earn my spot on the team. So I'm also really excited to see what our team can learn from him, and, like, what he can bring to us. So that's also really exciting. And then, like you said, with qualifiers, that's also a goal of mine. We want to win games, and we want to be, one of the top teams in the league. So that's also another goal. Yeah.
Jalen Howell, when somebody hears that name, maybe a casual fan, oh yeah, talented player, expecting to see her, high in the draft. But having played against her quite a bit, what do you see from her? Maybe especially in terms of what we've been talking about, of that transition to a professional level. What have you seen from her lining up on the other side in those FSU UNC battles?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like she has amazing leadership on the field. I feel like she really is kind of like the orchestrator with FSU in terms of like moving the ball and getting things going up and down the field. I feel like she's definitely like a box to box six, and she's dangerous. I mean, I can't tell you how many times she's scored off of a corner. She's a great aerial presence as well. So no, I feel she's a great player. She's dangerous. And again, playing FSU every year is always like a very fun and exciting game to play against them. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the big ACC rivalry. Some other players. We look out west from Stanford. Naomi Girma, a top defensive player, again has had some experience in U.S. national team camps and has a national championship to her name as well. My official out of UCLA. Maybe you have some UNC players that you used to play with that you have your eyes on, and even, as I mentioned, some of the 2021 picks who will just now be coming into the pro setting, like a Kelsey Turnbow at this moment that we're talking with San Diego. Who are some players that you kind of look at and say, yeah, that's a player who's going to do really well at the pro level, or that you remember of really being a tough opponent and a really quality player at the college level?
Yeah. I mean, like you said, I feel like Jalen comes to mind. I also think Kelsey, she has an amazing left foot. Again, very dangerous on the wing. And like you said, I had no idea with the rules in terms of how she was able to go with San Diego. So, like you said, I'm new to it too. I don't know what's going on. But I think both of them will do great in the league. Then I also Naomi Girma, very good, very technical center back. And I also think she's amazing at dribble penetration. So there's a lot of great players that are coming in. And two, it'll be interesting. A lot of them play, like with Naomi, Jalen, and Kelsey, they all play different positions. So it'll be interesting to see, if teams are, wanting players based on positions or just based on like, who they think is the best player. So that'll be cool to see too.
Yeah. Do you have any advice? Do you think about it when you think of young players, maybe players who will get drafted, young players coming into a professional rank? Have you thought about, what would you say to them in terms of just general advice of getting adjusted and getting accustomed to pro ball?
Yeah. I feel like it's really important to talk to the older girls and talk to the veterans on the team and just kind of, get their advice and get their opinion. I feel like on my team with Michelle and Gemma, and also with Nadia and Yuki, I learned a lot from them. And so I definitely recommend, taking that step and like saying hi to the older girls and, introducing yourself and, seeing what knowledge that you can get from them. And also, like I said, kind of controlling what you can control, and the things that you can't control, you just got to be like, okay, like this is it. Like, just got to roll with it. Because there is so many things that do change. I know in Louisville, for our preseason, we were having a lot of issues with ice and with flooding. And so our schedule was all over the place just in terms of like where we were training and what time and things like that. So definitely just kind of almost, it's hard, but just kind of go with the flow and be like, I'm here. It's going to be good. Everything's going to be all right. I feel like those are like the two biggest things that I would give as advice.
Well, that's awesome. Emily, thank you so much. Great to hear about your first season as a pro and get some of your insight on this upcoming draft. Really appreciate it. And thank you for coming on and joining us on Lots of Football's virtual event.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me. It was great. Thank you.
Well, now I want to bring in a former teammate at UNC of Emily, Brianna Pinto. Excited to have you joining us, Brianna. Thanks for joining us on Lots of Football event. We talked a little bit of draft with Emily. We talked about her first pro season and wanted to get your insight as well into what's ahead for you, what's ahead for this draft, and what your first pro season was like. So thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
Who are some players that are available in this upcoming draft, or maybe will be rookies in 2022 that you're excited to see?
Yeah, so one of the unique things about last year's draft was that older players were drafted but elected to go back and finish of their final year at their university. So two players that come to mind are Kelsey Turnbow of Santa Clara and Michaela Colahan of BYU. I think they're two dynamic players that contribute a lot of goals and assists on their respective teams. And I think their quality is going to translate into the next level because they're so good in combination, and then they can also take over the game. They can shoot from distance. They can take people off the dribble, and I think their flexibility on the positions that they can play will really benefit them at the next level.
And Emily spoke a bit about Jalen Howell at length, some players that are available in this upcoming draft. Potential teammates of yours coming up as well. We'll see how the draft shakes out. But who are some players that you think as well that might be really to look for if somebody's looking for Saturday? Okay, who am I locked in on Saturday to see where they're going? Who are some players maybe that could be ones to watch in this upcoming draft?
Yeah, absolutely. Jalen Howell is going to be a big name. Obviously, she's so dynamic in the air, and she's such a physical presence. And I think one thing that makes her a difference maker is just the leadership she brought to Florida State. But two other names that haven't been talked about as much are Naomi Girma of Stanford, who comes in at center back, and Mia Fishel from UCLA. I think they're both really great players, and they've had a lot of experience at the youth national team levels and even a couple brief stints with the senior team. And one of the cool things about them is that they come with fresh minds and creativity. And to Naomi specifically, she has been the captain for Stanford for a couple of years. And I think just the professionalism that she shows on a day-to-day basis is going to translate to the professional level, because you have to make sure that you're doing all the little things to give yourself the best chance to perform on any given day. And she's super organized on the ball, super composed. She can play over distance, and she can have a lot of great shots of her own, as we saw in the match versus Duke. So I'm super excited to see Naomi. And then with respect to Mia, the three of us were on the last U20 cycle for qualifying that unfortunately didn't get a World Cup due to COVID, but Mia Fishel scored a lot of goals, and she was the Golden Ball winner. And one of the cool things about her is she's so fun to play with. She's going to get the ball and post up, lay it off, and then spin in behind and get the ball again. And then her finishing is top notch. So I think she's been able to exhibit that at UCLA. And I just, I really anticipate that they'll go high in the draft so that they'll get on good teams and show what they can do in the NWSL.
Anybody in the ACC world, or even maybe some former teammates that you're looking forward to seeing at the pro level, whether that's a top pick even, or if it's just getting their shot wherever they might get picked, that you're interested in?
Yeah, I think unsung heroes are goalkeepers. So Claudia Dickey has been somebody I played with for a couple of years, and I'm just so excited to see what she can do, because she is a great leader from the goal. And one of the coolest things about her is she can step up in big moments and even hit penalties. And as we've seen at any level in the game, like, penalties matter. And like, if you can have somebody that's going to lead your team from within and drive them forward and instill belief in them, even in the big moments, that counts a lot. So but with regard to her ability to be in goal, she has a background in basketball. She actually played here for 2 years, I believe. And just her hands are so good. And she's able to get all of the air balls, which is huge in the NWSL, as we know that it's a really aerial game. And especially in corners, she's able to get up there and snag the ball, even against your biggest, most physical presences on the field. So I think she's going to stand out as well.
Nice. I think you might have a scouting future. That sounds like you got the full scouting report on some of these players. I like it.
Yeah. It's been a pleasure to play with so many different people, because you learn different ways of playing the game. And I'm just grateful that I've been able to see so many different levels and add pieces from everybody's game, because that's what makes you better. And just even this past year, getting to learn from seasoned professionals has been incredibly special, and I want to continue to grow. And I'm just so excited to see other young players stepping up into the next level of this game, because they have pieces that are going to push women's soccer forward and make the NWSL the best league in the world.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned me official earlier, yourself as well, having the experience coming through this draft, number 3 overall, this previous draft in January. One of the exciting things too, I think that, and we'll look forward to this, we should have a final draft list, hopefully very soon, if not already. But, it's not necessarily like in the past years before this most previous draft, that it's not just the seniors that we're looking at now. We see some younger players. We saw this season some rookies as well. Trinity Rodman jumps out. I mean, Ashley Sanchez previously before that, of players who are leaving early. And you've kind of seen that trend and been part of that. So what's that like now that that's an option, and that, you don't have to necessarily, like many other sports, it's not wait till your time's up in college. If you feel like you're ready, if you feel like there's an opportunity, and, there's obviously benefits to that. Do you think that's kind of a growth of the league and the women's game?
Yeah, I think that's where the game is trending. But that's no knock to the collegiate platform. I'm so grateful to the ACC and the NCAA just for all the development platforms that they've offered for us. I actually got to go to the College Cup for the men's side, and it's just such a beautiful experience because I feel like we're treated like professionals. The venues we get to play at are amazing. But as we move forward into the next 5 or 10 years, the trend in Europe is going pro at 16 or 18 years old. And as we saw with Trinity this past year, like, you can make that jump and it's very doable. And because of her talent and her work ethic, she was able to have success and win a championship because of it. So, but I think there's a lot of other good players that can make that jump as well. And I think it's so exciting to have other young players in the league because it's going to push our older players. And it's going to bring new faces and new personalities into this league, which will help grow the league, most importantly. And I think when you have big personalities and young faces, people can attach to that and they can get the representation that they need to really identify with players on each team. Because one of the coolest things for me growing up was I got to live so close to so many big time universities in Carolina and Duke. And since the College Cup was here, I got to see all the best teams when they would play in the Final Four. And I got to pick players out and say, like, I want to be like them. And one of the players that comes to mind was Crystal Dunn while she was playing at Carolina. But now that we've got even younger faces at the NWSL, our goal for the game long term is for young girls to go to every single NWSL game and identify players that they want to be like. And I think that sort of representation becomes more pronounced when we continue to invest in media and just make sure that these games are being covered on primetime television. And one of the things that I'm also grateful for is, even though I'm coming up at an amazing time, the next generation is going to be even better because they can turn on the TV and they can see women's soccer role models any given day. And that's the future of the game. And that's how we're going to get the most out of the NWSL.
Top players like yourself, like Emily, this is the path into, at least has been and is currently the path into the NWSL. And you mentioned you are Brianna Pinto of the NC Courage, North Carolina Courage now, drafted 3rd overall by Gotham in this most recent draft. And, I think one thing that I asked Emily, and we see this, we've seen a couple of signings of top college players this year so far. I'm sure we'll see more that went to Europe. And there's that choice element, right, that they can pick, where do I want to go? And in the NWSL, that structure reverses a little bit. So maybe yourself, you're involved in some of the governance and of the federation at large, which doesn't necessarily overlap, but just in terms of looking at where does this sport go in the future. What do you think of how that system operates, having gone through the process, which we'll get to your personal experience too, but just having gone through let me wait and see who picks me rather than I'm going to go pick a team. What do you think of that system and what its future might hold?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. And I know a lot of people on the Players Association for the NWSL are fighting for free agency to make sure that people have a say in where they live. I think playing soccer on very little salaries is tough. And then to have no say of where you're playing, that's a huge ask of players. And I think our league will be at the best when the players feel that all their needs are satisfied, both financially and then emotionally, making sure they're in a place that they actively enjoy being in. In the end, I think when you take care of those basic needs, everything else will come into fruition. And the first piece of success, in my opinion, is happiness. So you should enjoy showing up to work every day and getting after it with people by your side that are going to push you. But if that's not the case, you don't like that environment, or it may not fit with the kind of player who you are, you should have the option to go somewhere else and see if there's a better opportunity. Because at the end of the day, like, the NWSL controls our livelihood, and controls so many people's dreams. And if they can't make it work in this specific market, why can't they choose to go somewhere else? So again, I would love to see more freedom in terms of like player agency and giving them the opportunity to just go where they're wanted and needed and supported, most importantly. My parents told me before I entered the draft that being in college was the last time I get to pick who I played for and played with. And it's been interesting to reflect on, but I think that's part of the exciting journey. One of my favorite things about soccer is you make the most unlikely friendships and have the most unlikely experiences because you go to all of these unique places and learn so many different things. And I had the great privilege of playing with Carly Lloyd and players like that, and Gaetan Sine, and getting to learn from them each and every single day was really, really great. And I think it was amazing for my development because I get to see people that are worldwide superstars for their respective federations, and I get to add pieces to my game. And now that I'm going to NC Courage, I'll get to apply what I learned and do it on the field. So, but again, I just would hope that as we move forward, we're prioritizing the health and happiness of our players so that we can put the best product on the field. Because if players aren't satisfied, like, are we really getting the most out of them, and are they truly maximizing their potential?
Well, let's talk about that draft journey a little bit. In that virtual draft event, which was a little bit different, we saw a lot of families that were just kind of around players, and they were in that environment, sort of behind them. What was that like? And especially maybe having, siblings and parents who have gone through relatively similar experiences, have played at high levels. What was that like for you?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it was different, not being at the actual draft event in person, but reflecting on that experience, I think it was so fulfilling, just to have your name called beside all of your loved ones. Because for most people, your family are the ones who have been with you from day one. They've seen all the trials and tribulations that you've gone through to get to where you are today. And just to share that moment is truly special and something I'll never forget. And I just think that NWSL did just such a great job at just involving the families and seeing the raw emotions that come with fulfilling your dreams of becoming a professional soccer player. So since we're doing another virtual event, I think they can make this process even better. And I think these girls will really enjoy the moment because they get to spend it with loved ones. And one of my pieces of advice to anybody that's entering the draft this week is to have a draft party with even extended loved ones that can't be there within the moment. We had a Zoom party where I had one computer facing my family and I, and then we broadcasted on the TV so that I could see them. And then we had another computer with the actual draft live stream. So it was super cool. I just felt so loved and supported in that moment. And it was super fun to do the interviews with the supporters group at Gotham and, well, at the time Sky Blue, and get to talk to the NWSL reporters that were hosting the event. So I think they did a really, really great job of making sure that every draft pick felt special on their day, even though that we were in the midst of a pandemic. So I think they have so much to look forward to.
Mm-hmm. the adjustment to the pro game. Talked a little bit with Emily about this. I'm sure people who are listening, whether they're getting drafted soon, they're still playing college ball, or maybe even younger, wondering what that was like, for you to go through, your individual story.
Players are bigger, faster, stronger, and the speed of play is a lot quicker. So you just need to make sure that you're thinking 2 and 3 steps ahead so that you can be efficient on the ball, because the defenders are closing spaces a lot quicker. And I don't know, you just got to be sharper. And I think that starts in the training environment, what you're doing off the field to make sure you're prepared every day to come into training to kick butt. And I think it's a real world-class environment that we get to be in, because there are only 10 teams currently. Now there's going to be 12 this season. And because there are so few teams, talent is consolidated into such a finite amount of people. So I really, really enjoyed it. But I just want to get on the field, and I'm so excited for the new opportunity with North Carolina.
Maybe we can quickly end it on a fun one of what you're looking forward to. You're from North Carolina, went to UNC, you're back in North Carolina after this offseason trade. Back home, like what are you looking forward to? What's going to be high on the list? I know you're training, but anything fun and exciting about being back where
I just love this area just because there's such an amazing group of people here. You've got current and former professionals that I get to train with in the off season, both men and women. And then you've also got the collegiate players who are looking for a place to train as they prepare for their spring season. So it's also, there's beautiful weather. I'm so happy to be in warmer weather again, especially as we're entering the winter. But with that being said, moving back to North Carolina, it's a place I know. I actually got to go take pictures at Wake Med, which is our home field for North Carolina Courage. And I feel like it's come full circle, because at that facility, there are youth fields, and I've trained on like every single field and played on every single field at this point, even in college. So to go from U8 soccer just across the street from the main venue on Solon Field, then to make your way to the field next to the main field where I played my freshman year at Carolina as our home field when our stadium was being built. And then now to step onto the main field and play in front of so many family and friends that I've known for years. I think it's just going to be such a beautiful experience. And I can't wait to just feel the support of the community, because they love good soccer here. And the North Carolina Courage has a lot to be proud of, because they've been consistently winning over the last couple of years, and they know how to build an environment that's going to compete for championships. And I can't wait to play with players like Jess McDonald or Merritt and Casey in goal, or even Davinia and Denise Sullivan. There's literally so many people that are so notable, and I'm going to learn so much, and I'm going to have so much fun just like being on the field and playing again. But truth be told, it's just a blessing to play in front of your home environment, and to get this opportunity so early in my career is something that I'm really grateful for, because I know a lot of people in the league do want to go and play in their home environment. So I'm just feeling really lucky and blessed, and I'm looking forward to the opportunity ahead.
And thank you for joining us on this Atta Football virtual event.
No, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
Well, thank you so much to both Emily and Brianna for joining us on this Atta Football virtual event. Thank you for watching and tuning in. Hope you took away plenty of new info and got to know them a little bit better, and hopefully got to understand the draft system a little better in the NWSL. I've been your host, Jeff Kassouf. Excited to bring you this, and excited to see you again on the next Atta virtual event coming at you soon.